Welcome everybody to Down and Dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers, sponsored by Casper Egg, Wettenkamp Transport, Trip Downing, Slama Enterprises, and Front Street Toys. So Ryan Zolik, myself, and Greg Elsing here tonight visiting with Chris Feller. How's it going, Chris?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing well.
Good. Tonight we got Chris on here, and he's got some videos of some blocks being made, cams for injection pump cam and an engine cam. You've got that, right, Chris, for us to take a little peek at?
Yeah, just kind of looking at the processes, how we make stuff. It's kind of interesting for people to see it if you don't deal with it every day.
All right.
Tell them the name of your business.
Excuse me?
Tell them the name of your business.
Oh, Sussex Machine Company. So, yeah, we don't do pulling parts, like Robbie and Fair Valley and all them other guys. This is kind of just a lot of stuff I make is just for myself, and I help some other guys out a little bit, but that's not our main business by any means. It's
all right.
It's just I can design stuff and I can make stuff, so it's kind of a disease. That's how I got into tractor pulling, is because I can make the stuff. So I think it's more fun to design stuff and make it and see if you make more power. It's almost more fun to go to the dyno than it is to drive it, but that's just me.
Yep. And we have a couple short videos of your tractor down at Wildman's too. We did a couple minutes of that. It was a kind of an impromptu thing. We were both there and just did it, and all we had was a phone. So one of the videos, that probably the best video, it didn't work in my phone for some reason, but probably operator error, right?
or because we were both on it. You know what I mean? That's not
right.
Really good,
right? But there's a couple spots on. You get to see a little peek of the tractor around it and stuff. So, which one do you want to start with there, Ryan?
I think we start with you guys down at Wildman's first. Okay,
that'll work. This is Chris and I down at Craig Wildman's, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I built my entire chassis, and Craig's helped me with the sheet metal. I'm not that good with sheet metal, and he's an expert, so it's down there getting the sheet metal done on it. So Greg talked me into showing a little bit of it.
Yep. So you can let her rip whenever you want.
Wildman shop to get my tires off of my tractor and run into Chris here, and he's got his tractor in the stages of being done. It's pretty close, it looks like.
Oh yeah. So brought it down to Craig's here a few months ago for sheet metal. So I made the whole chassis and everything. So he's helping with the sheet metal, doing a great job. So we're getting there. It's a long project, a lot of years working on it.
Yep.
It's a oddball. It's one of a kind. So it doesn't matter what we work on. It's different than everything else. So that's part of the problem.
Even the engine and the chassis, because you built the chassis yourself, so it isn't like you buy anything off the shelf, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Right, and you're going to bring the motor down here now to fit it, make sure everything fits around it, is what the plan is?
Yeah, so we 3D printed the motor, because obviously a V8 hangs out over the side rails, and 3D printed it so Craig could work around it as much as he could. But now we're basically at the final stages of fitting everything up and putting all the sheet metal in and getting all the gaps right and everything. So I'm going to bring the engine down here probably the end of this. Well, it is the end of the week, probably beginning next week, and do a final fit up on it. And then the engine goes from here. I'm gonna dyno over at Robbie Lemke's, and then Craig will finish up the last sheet metal stuff here, and then we'll take it apart and powder coat the frame, and then we'll head north of here to get the paint job done. We're probably gonna wrap part of it too.
All right. And the block you're putting in here now is a stock 32/8 cat block, right?
Yeah. So I have forgings to machine, steel forge blocks, cat blocks. Waiting. I'm going to run this engine for a while and find out, what change I want to make before I spend the time machining the cat blocks. But I machined all the Perkins blocks already, so those are out in circulation. So the cap lock, just kind of waiting to get some intel on how how it's going to work. If I have any issues I want to correct.
Right. Where a stock block breaks, you want to make sure it's strong enough.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
When the stock block breaks.
Yeah, when it breaks.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have too many problems because we did a lot of engineering. The block's kind of long for the ride. It's similar to the way they set up the the diesel trucks with their blocks and how they reinforce them. So the block's just kind of long for the ride, but the steel block will just be even better yet.
Okay.
So
Perfect. But you were going to get ready for last year in Louisville. They ain't going to make it this year either, is it?
No, I didn't even sign up this year.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
my problem is work. Work gets in the way of everything. If I could just quit work, that'd be great.
Right.
But,
When you win the lottery, you don't have to work anymore,
yeah,
right?
well, I tried, but
I tried.
yeah.
I buy a ticket once in a while too. It
Yeah.
never wins, never
Yeah,
works.
no,
So yeah.
no.
So we'll have you on the show here when we show this and answer any questions anybody has. So anybody has any questions, please give us a call or text in or however you do it to get the questions to Ryan and he'll get them on the screen for us.
Yeah, and we can show them a couple things here too.
Okay. Yep.
So
All right. I think the couple things is the video that didn't work, but you kind of
Yeah.
got a little walk around it there, right?
Yeah, there was a couple different things on there. It's unique, but we'll save that for another day.
Well, Chris, you say the block is just along for the ride. Explain that.
So, the girdle, the end plates, and the deck plates are all tied together. So, meaning the girdle on the bottom, first end plates go on the engine, and that's doweled and pinned to the end of the block, and tons of bolts in there. And then the girdle is fitted between. It's kind of like dovetailed in there, and between the two, there's two tabs that come down each side of the end of the engine plate on the front and back. It slides up in there, and then that is then bolted, to the main caps and to the end plates both. And then the girdles then overlap the block, and the girdle on both, or I should say deck plates. The deck plates on top overlap the block, and they bolt into the, obviously in the block, but they also bolt into the two end plates on top. So it's a big box. So, the only thing that could happen if you lose your rod, it's going to kick it out the side. But as far as like the real problems that we have with the V8s, especially the cats, are, they're not very strong on the bottom end, and that solves this issue where, that's all strengthened up really good. But, based on what we learn on this and what, we kind of see, we'll kind of where we see on the bearings and everything, then we'll reinforce the steel blocks accordingly. And those will be really, really strong.
Yep. So your girdle, you said at one time, didn't you say it weighed like 300 pounds or something?
Yeah, I think 220, 240, something like that. Yeah. The whole encasement the engine is in weighs, the end plates actually weigh, the back plate actually weighs more than the anything. I think all of them together weigh like, 670 pounds or something like that.
Really? Just the end caps and the girdle.
Well, yeah. The girdle, the end plates, and the deck plates all together. You got to remember on a V8. I mean, they have, the way the V8s are, at least the cats are. You have a a whole back plate that bolts onto that block to so you can mount it into a truck or a tractor or whatever. So that end plate then is just made differently for for this application going into a component chassis.
Okay,
So
that's pretty interesting.
The girdle that he's talking about, like you see that block being machined there. The girdle, for those of you that aren't follow along with the lingo, I guess, right there, that machine's milling out for the main bearings for the crank, and the crankshaft sits in there. And on top of that, the main caps bolt into the block there, which holds your crankshaft in. But in that, those main caps will be machined, so it'll be even with the bottom of that block. And then there's what, 3/4 inch plate that all the holes for the main bolts goes through that steel plate, and then also in the bolt holes around like the block itself. So it ties it all together, and with his end plates and with the deck plate that goes on the top of the block before the head would go on. So it ties it all together. But all the bolts through all that girdle.
Yeah, and there's a preload put on it too. So your main caps are proud by, a little bit, a thou or, a thou and 5/10. So when you torque that down to 200 foot-pounds, it's actually putting a preload on those main caps, or preload on the main caps, and to hold it all together. But the video you've seen right there, that's actually the aluminum blocks that we're making right now. Those are being made in one of my plants, forged and then rough machine, and then Robbie does the final machining to them. That's his project. So it gets roughed out, and then when it comes and heat treated, and then when it comes over here, Robbie do all the final machining on them. They'll be identical to the steel block, his steel block program, just made out of aluminum, and it's a forged aluminum too. So it's trying to remember, it's a 7050 aircraft grade aluminum that's forged and then machined. That's what the forging looks like after, right when it goes in the machine to begin with. There's a forging press right there. I mean, you'll get an idea how big that damn thing is when we got a guy standing next to it. But that block, that's an engine block in that forging press.
Okay.
Well,
And is it when you put it in there? Is it heated, or what is it? Just
Yeah. Some of the pictures are coming up. There's the oven. So what they do is they got these big mechanical devices, and that's actually a small part for what some of the stuff they do over there. That they'll heat that to a certain temperature in the oven, and they'll pick it out with what looks like a gigantic forklift with like a crab claw on it, and they pinch it, and then they can put it in the forging press, and then they can manipulate it around in there. And yeah, it's heated to I can't remember the temperature that they're heating that to. It's 16 or 1700 degrees or something like that, and then that makes it malleable, and then they can actually forge it. Some of the videos coming up here will show the forging process. That right there is actually how we machine what's called a tensile bar. So when it's done being forged and heat treated, we machine a little bar, and then we can pull it apart, and we can measure how much force it took it to pull it apart, and that tells you if you met your hardness and your tensile strength criteria. Because there's the bar. So we take cut pieces out of the forging, and then we machine it in that shape, and then we pull them to see make sure we hit our tensile strength. Because 70-75 with the heat treat process, it's about 70,000 psi. A regular casting, like we have in all of our tractors, or at least all the stock tractors, they're probably like 38 to 42,000 psi, maybe a little bit more, depending on if there was a little bit of ductile iron mixed into it. But a cast aluminum block is not as strong as a cast steel block. Casting we're talking about. But then when you go to the forging process, you take a piece of ingot, and then you forge it into the shape, and they become a lot stronger. And that's how we do steel blocks too. We forge them, and that's a 4300 series steel. And then when we forge them, they're 180,000 psi tensile strength.
right.
And that's what's crazy. We're kicking rods out of these steel blocks now and again, and punching holes in that. It's just unimaginable amount of force that, I tell some of my engineering buddies at, Deere and Meritor and Dana and stuff about what we do, and they just can't even believe it. You take one of those forged rods and you turn it into like 3 or 4 pieces chewed up in the side of a bottom of the engine, the pro stocks, and people just can't even believe it. I mean, the stuff that we're doing with our engines are just way beyond, some of the engineering ideas for engines that are out there. I mean, it's no different than, the nitromethane engines. So we got a picture over a video.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So when you're, I'm just asking, you use that machine, you cut out that piece out of the block to test its strength. Like, are they all machined at that thin spot the same size, whether it's cast iron, steel, or however, to find out the strength?
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's different specs that you got to follow to make a test bar, but they all follow pretty closely to that. And they got to be really, it's got to be done at, really close tolerance. So you have the proper cross section. So you got a good test. You can't have them varying by much. Otherwise you won't get an accurate, test.
Okay.
I don't know if Ryan, if you got some of those videos of the forging of the aluminum, that'd be good. We're kind of getting ahead into some of the cam stuff I got to show. We got that, that forging press over there. I'm not sure what the tonnage of that one is. I think that press is like either 1,500 or 2,000 tons.
Whew.
Really?
So, yeah. They got some big presses over there.
Okay. And this is in China, right? One of your plants in China?
Yep. Yeah, those are done in China. There's some more of the rough machining of the block. And that's a pretty big machine too.
Right. And you said the reason you were doing it in China is because they can get it done quicker and have a better handle on that type of thing there than we do here.
Well, there's only so many forging companies in the United States that do larger stuff, but they don't do smaller runs like this. It's kind of hard to get into them to do stuff. And then if you do, you're going to wait forever. You're going to wait in line. So
yeah,
that's why we're doing them over there, because there's so many more options over there.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that, over the decades that a lot of our manufacturing has been kind of forced out of the United States. So we've lost some of our ability to process some types of parts over here now. Hopefully that'll change, but it's going to take, decades to turn it around, especially like rare earth magnets and stuff like that. That's a real issue. Probably heard of that before, but
yep.
Yeah. So there's a lot of processes that are done in other countries that we can't do anymore here. We can do these processes we're talking about here. It's just going to take forever for us to get them done.
Right. And some of the places won't even talk to you unless you're going to make hundreds of them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They set the tooling up and keep going. So
what's that, John?
They don't want to do small short run stuff like this because it takes too much to switch everything over and get it set up and get it going, and then only do a few things and it's over. Where they can do long run stuff where they make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of parts, where they tool it, set it up once, and let it go.
Yeah, that's true. And then, China is pretty slow over there right now, so it helps that they're looking for stuff to do.
So the price of it probably went up 10% now with the tariff, right?
Yeah. I'm not joking. It's it depends on how they're going to enact it. I have not heard yet. I've been watching really close because it'll change a bunch of stuff. So I don't know if the stuff that's on the water that's already left the port or if it's going to, or how they're going to do it, or if it's going to be when it arrives at port side here. Yeah, I'm not sure. So there's a bunch of containers on the water. We're trying to figure out how that's all
Right.
going to work out.
And you're doing one IH block and one John Deere block, right? Right now,
Yep, we're doing an IH and a John Deere.
a small block, right?
Yep, and then Robbie will do some testing on them and make sure they're good.
Right. Robbie was telling me of the block, the IH block. They're gonna make steel inserts where the mains are, because for some reason you don't want to run it on aluminum or something. The main caps and whatever it is in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's going to do that. I would think that that's something for him to decide. I'm not sure what he's going to do.
Right. That's the only thing that's going to be different than his steel block. Something about the mains he's worried about holding in place or something.
Yeah. No, he, as far as I know, I mean, I know it's identical. It's just made out of aluminum.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
there's nothing.
Using the same program.
Yep. Just changing the surface footage for cutting and maybe some tooling. That's about it. But that they're identical. There's nothing different about them. They're certified already in steel and they're identical in aluminum.
How much lighter would you think that aluminum block is going to be than the steel block?
50%.
Right.
Wow.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah, maybe not quite 50%, really close, because steel weighs 0.286 pounds per square inch and aluminum is 0.111, I think it is. So if you do the math, it's 45% less.
Yep. You're still going to have steel pistons in it and your steel head on it and your steel crank in it and all that stuff, and steel rods and steel, whatever.
Oh yeah,
the block itself will be, the engine might probably be 100, 150 pounds lighter than a steel one with a steel block, just the block alone, right? With nothing in it, or what do you think?
350.
350 lighter.
If I take a guess, yeah.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and be safer. Because
it'll be stronger than a cast block.
Yeah, like 2/3 stronger in a cast block. Because we have to be honest with ourselves. Limited Pro, Light Pro have already exceeded what Pro stocks were in about 2009? Was it when they went component? Someone threw a number out there, a year out there, 2009.
Yeah, it might have been a little earlier than that. I'm not sure, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Wildman's had built the first version of it.
5, was it?
Yeah.
When it been like 2005 is when Masterson.
Well, I think
Wildman's first two
Wildman's made the first. Wildman's made the first component, and you're probably right. 2005.
Well, they won Louisville in 2005 with those tractors. So it's 3 or 4 that they had.
Yeah.
It's not a component of what they are today. It was actually a John Deere rear end in it.
Yeah.
And it was set up to match the model John Deere that was on the market.
Right. No, yeah, and even the components have evolved since then. I mean, some of the stuff they've learned with how to make the component tractors and where they should flex and where they shouldn't, and all that kind of stuff is really interesting. But yeah, so 2005 is when they went component, and obviously that changed the weight of the tractor a lot and helped things out. But yeah, we're at that horsepower where now, or exceeded it with Limited Pros and Light Pros, that this will make it a lot safer, and we'll be able to have more movable weight and still stay in cast rear end. I think Light Pros are able to go component now, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And they should have before us, because they're making the same horsepower, if not more, and they're 1,000 pounds lighter, so they're cutting them out wherever they can, and.
Right, and this is a better way to go about it. It's safer, and then just, you end up getting at a price point where we lose a lot of pullers because then you got to redo your whole damn tractor. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't want to do that. It's just a smarter way to go about it. That's what my thought is, at least.
But I think in limited pro now with the new turbo rule, that we talked about a few weeks ago on the show here, that's going to limit our horsepower even more. We're actually we'll be stepping back a little bit from last year.
Yeah, but there's some smart guys out there, so they'll get it back to where it was.
I think hopefully they do, but I don't believe you're going to gain another 500 horse anymore. I don't think.
No, well, maybe after a very long period of time. Look what happened to super farms. I think when we left super farm, it was like 1,200, 1,250 or something like that. And what are they making now? 1,700?
16, 17, yeah. Depends on who's dyno.
John's pointing up a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, tractor pulling is fun because all the guys that do it, we're innovators. A lot of us are farmers, and it's always fun to figure out how to make something bigger, better, faster. Right. So it's gonna even when the rules get put on us, it's not that we work around the rules. We work within the rules and just be smarter about what we do.
Right.
So
yeah.
Does Ryan, do you have any of the videos of that big forge press working or not?
Either that or we can work.
Didn't see.
Can we go to the cams and come
that
back to
in
that?
any of
'Cause I
the
see
emails.
ones from the
I can
cams
check
on there.
again.
Yeah, there's all them little movies that were part of them emails.
So one thing I'm thinking about Super Farm too, part of the reason wasn't just turbos they made better. They made their injectors better, and they've all moved from stock intakes and stock exhaust now.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that helps a bunch.
Yeah.
And Limited Pro's already there, has all that stuff ready, and they got aftermarket heads since then too. You know what I mean? And that all helped a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's all part of it.
Injection pump technology, and it's all come a long ways.
Yep. And Super Farm is a class that really has to work on that extra 25 horse. They do. They really work hard to get that.
Yeah. If they can make a 10 difference or 15 horse, they're really making hay because you got the turnip squeezed so tight right now that.
In limited pros, I think the tires have made that a lot harder to make, to balance your tractor.
Right, balance your tractor and keep your drive line together with the horsepower.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
Right?
Yeah, I know about that.
Yep.
And I think tires has a lot to do with it in all the classes. Is it's really evolved the last few years and different markets, different competitors in the markets of it. Different ones making tires. So
Right.
Someone does good with whole shots. Next thing you know, everybody's buying whole shots, or somebody does good with whatever else, and then they're going that way and trying. So you got all the tire guys, scurrying all the time to, keep tires, in stock and cutting them for you and selling, and rims, and like we were at Hawthorne's a few weeks ago, and it's just crazy.
Yep. I'm going to do an advertisement. I have a brand new set of whole shot 14 plies, never used, sitting in my shop here.
Yep.
Dale?
I think quite a few other people do too.
Oh.
Yep. Well, and the tire technology has really just gotten going in the last 5-6 years, I think, too. There's going to be more out there. I mean, just the guys, the way they're cutting tires different. You got to look at them all, and I look at them and see who's working, and kind of want to go that route. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also, in different classes too, more bars seem to be working.
Yep.
You gotta look at it at like a saw blade. You can remove a lot more material quickly with more blade, with more cutting teeth. So if you got the power and the RPM, you can get off the line faster. So that's why, more bars, if you will, in some of the higher horsepower classes seem to work a little bit better.
I think on a poor track, yes. On a good track where you've got a good power track, I don't think they make that big a difference. But on a poor track, I think they do.
Yeah.
I really do. But they're not going to hurt you on a good track either. You know?
No, that's not going to hurt you.
No.
Hey, Ryan, you want to play the cam videos? We can talk about them a little bit. So here we're making a injection pump cam. So it's basically the roughing in portion right there starts out as a piece of bar stock, and then we're roughing it in.
And then how hard is that bar stock?
It's not heat treated yet, so you're talking, I don't know, 20, 25, 30 Rockwell. It's not that hard.
So then after you heat treat it, what will it be?
We do induction heat treating. So the bearing journals are really hard. They're like 60 Rockwell, 62 Rockwell, and it's induction hardened too, or we do a vacuum heat treat. So the case depth of the thickness of that hardness in the bearing journals is usually, about 30 to 32 thousandths deep. And then the actual cam lobes, so the parts get a paint put on them. First one is heat treated. It goes in the furnace, and we get 32 everywhere. And then we paint off all the areas that we don't want heat treated any deeper. And then it goes to another heat treat operation. Then we push the case depth, probably 60 or 70 thousandths deep in the cam lobe area.
Okay.
So that's like the first operation.
So why don't you heat the whole thing that hard?
It'll break. Nose will break.
brittle?
Yeah. It gets too brittle. So you got to think it's like a lollipop with a soft center. If you take a lollipop without a soft center in it and you smash it on a table, it just shatters everywhere. If you take a lollipop, it's got a soft core in it, just kind of turns it into a flat. It doesn't shatter. So that hardness being softer in the middle allows the thing to live, because otherwise it'll just with all the radial and side loading force on it'll just snap it right in half. So when a cam has a problem, I shouldn't say all the time, but when cams have problems with the noses breaking off, it's either it's too small of a cross section for the amount of force it is. And, we found that out on some of the pro stock stuff. We need some of the limited pro stock stuff, or it was heat treated wrong. It's too, it'll lop that nose right off there because it's just brittle. There's a lot of force on that nose of the cam with the gear and everything on it.
The gear, and that's, I don't know if a lot of guys have watched that, and a lot of guys are putting supports out at the end of it past the dampener and the drives for the oil pump and fuel pump and all that. There's a support out on the end of it too that never, back in the old days, you never had that.
Yeah, that helps out some. In your cover, at least like on the V8s and the cover that goes over the cam, there'll be a bearing in there, and there'll be a piece that bolts on the on the end of the gear, and then that piece will be slip fit into that bearing, so it gives us some extra support out there. Because you got to think that some of them injection pumps take 200 horsepower just to drive them.
Yep.
That injection pump that we designed for the V8, when we were doing some testing way back at what's the name of the place that Fair Valley bought out?
Columbus Diesel.
Yeah, Columbus. Yeah, when we first ran my V8 pump out there, it dimmed the lights.
Yep.
Booth,
Dennis
booth,
bought that
the lights. New tractor name for you.
Yeah, there you go.
when Dennis bought that stand. They had to get a different transformer and more power into his shop to run it. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
yeah, he had to wait a long time for that too. He wasn't.
Yeah, they had to
super
put a
happy
whole new
about that.
service in. Yeah, they
Yeah.
had to put a whole new service in.
No, I think he just got that going just recently, didn't he? Like in the last
Yep,
6
we're
months.
gonna be out there in a couple weeks doing a video of that and some other newer stuff he has there too. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't realize how much of a parasite an injection pump is on a pulling engine. Like I said, even some of those inline six pumps, take probably close to a couple hundred horsepower to spin.
yep, that's what even
So
our Wyman
you
pumps.
got to think about that. You got the little bitty injection pump on the engine, and it takes over 100 horsepower to spin that thing, and you got a gear on the end of it, and you got that little bitty cam in there. Something's going to give it if it's not designed right.
Right. And they've gotten a lot heavier and built, a lot beefier built and bigger drive gears, straight cut gears. And back, 30 years ago, you never thought any of that stuff. But now, that's just the way they don't even look at anything else.
Yeah, and I think it's going to end up. I think some of our injection pumps are going to have to go to steel bodies eventually to be able to not move around as much.
Yeah. But a lot of the classes are limited to their housings they can use for their pumps.
Yeah, I'm talking Sigma billet stuff.
Yeah. Yep. But it's pretty interesting watching all this. And then do you just make this and you send them somewhere else to have them ground?
Yeah, so that'll get roughed in. The lobes will get roughed in, and then they go off to heat treat.
Right. So you're just making these for John Deere or somebody in this video, or are you making them for pullers or something?
Some of these are made for some of my customers, and
Okay.
then this particular video is made for one of my customers, but then we make some of our own cams for pulling. It goes into like the wild buck.
Okay.
And then the cam that's in some of my stuff.
Okay.
Just because we can.
Yep. Right.
So that's how what's that, Greg?
Well, it's pretty interesting to see how I've never watched a cam being ground and the oil groove being put in there and all that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So this is a live tooling lathe. So basically what we're doing is we can rough the lobes in. They're you can see they're machined with a cutoff tool or a grooving tool, and all the materials removed, and then we can put in a live tooling lathe like this and spin it with a C axis. So we actually got a laptop hooked up to this because it takes a lot of memory to do this, and we feed the program out of the laptop right into this. So it's doing a lot of, the C axis, which, you see spinning right now going around like that. And then the Y axis is actually moving in and out at the same time, creating that cam lobe.
All right. So when you're building your cam for your tractor, let everybody know, like, you reversed how the motor works, kind of, right?
Yeah, actually, that next video, if Ryan puts it up there, is actually the cam out of my tractor. So it starts out stock, and then we're putting all the grooves in it right there.
So tell everybody what I meant when I said it's kind of a reverse operating motor.
Okay, so typically a V8, well, either the Massey's or the Cats are the exhaust. Well, you can see the exhaust like on Carlton's tractor and Mike Everson's tractor and stuff, glows red. Well, the exhaust are on the outside of the heads, and the intake is up in the V. And what I did was I reversed it. So the intakes are on the outside and the exhaust is in the middle. So it flows. I think, there's a few truck engines out there like that have been designed. I don't know if is it Dodge or Chevy. I'm not sure, but anyway, they've designed them like that in the last few years. But the whole theory behind it, we're going to find out real quick, is that exhaust is the energy that drives the turbo and keeps it, turbo lit. And if you got those long ass pipes on there, maybe we're losing a lot of energy driving that turbo, more consistently. So shortening up the length of the exhaust header and putting that turbo right on top of the engine and the injection pump, right underneath it. And then having the intakes on the outside of the engine so that it can come out of the intercooler and organize the air a little bit more as it goes into the engine, will make it a lot more efficient. And usually efficiency equals horsepower. So that's the thought process behind it.
Right. For those who are watching, it might not know, the hotter you want your air, you don't want your pistons to be hot, but the hotter the air you have, the harder it will drive the turbo.
Yeah, and it's not so much how hot it is. I mean, you're going to be able to get that air into the motor and out quicker potentially, and not lose a lot of the energy, that the exhaust is creating to drive the turbo. So it's a thought process behind it. So this is actually the cam out of my tractor being machined. So,
right. So why we talked about this too. So to make that happen, you had to make the cam just has to be basically backwards. Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same as a typical cam for a 3208. So on a 3208, the right bank are the odd cylinders, 1, 3, 5, 7. The left bank is 2, 4, 6, 8. And the right bank on a conventional one goes exhaust, intake, down the line. And on the left side, the even side, it's intake, exhaust. But the way this had to be designed was both sides are intake, exhaust in that order. So you just got to pay attention, what lobe needs to be where, and, get the proper lobe separation and the right configuration for whatever lift you want on your valves. So yeah, it's not normal.
Nope.
But the whole idea of it should work. We're going to find out real quick, but the idea behind it is it should work. And the other thing is, I don't believe that any of the V8s that are on the Pro Stock class, and I could be wrong, are using intercoolers.
Oh
yeah. Are you going to?
Before too, you used to see like even the 6-cylinder guys. At one point, all the headers kind of went forward, and the turbocharger was in front of the motor. And then, your stock mount is right on top of the motor. And now you see everybody that is building motors and stuff now got it right back. That header is right back tight to the top of the motor. So it's like you're saying, you're not traveling that whole length where the energy of that exhaust pressure decreases. If you got it closer, it increases. So it's shorter run.
Yeah, that's the whole thought process. It makes sense on paper and in the computer, but we'll find out here real shortly if it works like we think it's going to. But the V8s that are out there, I can't speak for everybody, but I don't believe that any of them are running an intercooler. I could be wrong, and mine's got an intercooler on it also, because the intercoolers are everything's unique. You got an inlet coming out of the turbo, but you got 2 intakes. So you got to split that apart in the intercooler and build a special intercooler. So you got 2 outlets on your intercooler to go into the intakes. If you just use one and then split it in the pipe, you're going to lose all your air and your velocity. You got to split it apart in the intercooler. So it's a 1 inlet, 2 outlet intercooler.
Did you make that yourself too, or?
I designed it. Part of it, and then I got some help from Bell also design it, and then Robbie had a few inputs on it too when we were putting it together. So then I had Bell make it. for me.
Okay.
Because I
All
mean,
right.
that's a big ass intercooler too to be able to fit in there.
Right. Right. Do you have that already?
Oh yeah,
Intercooler?
I've got everything. We're going to be dynoing here in about shortly after Louisville. It's ready to go.
Okay. Perfect. Got your cam in? They just made a video. Or are you gonna have it in? That's all you have.
I'll have it in 1 week.
Okay.
That's all I'm waiting on.
So was that made here in the United States, or was that made over in China?
No, that was made here. The only thing that we've made over there is just getting the blocks forged and rough machining.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So, I was going to ask you, but just popped into my head. You're a Kansas City fan. You drive to all the Kansas City games, right?
Yeah, I go to a few of them. Yeah,
Are you going to be at the Super Bowl?
I'm still thinking about it. I really don't like New Orleans.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still thinking about it. If I go, it'll be a last minute thing, and I'm
Right.
probably just.
A couple of years ago, he was on TV at the end of it.
Yeah, that was
We see-
actually which Super Bowl was that? That was actually in Miami. That was the first. That was the
Yeah.
first one that the Chiefs won. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was.
I'm like, that's Chris Feller right there.
Yep. Right in the front row.
Right. in the
Right.
front
How long
row.
have you been had season tickets to the Chiefs?
32 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good
I've
time.
been waiting for a long time. Now everyone's giving me a bunch of crap because they're doing good, and and the refs are behind them doing so good. Everyone's just jealous because nobody can beat them, so they got to make up an excuse.
Right. I think it's true. I watched the Packer game. I think it was true. No.
So
The Packers
he's
beat them
been-
last time they played them.
He's been on the bandwagon since they built it, so can't say he just jumped on the bandwagon.
Oh yeah, I actually got when my mom and dad way back when sold the farm and they moved to Branson, Missouri on Table Rock Lake. My mom or my grandma moved down there and she got tickets, and this would have been 1990, somewhere in there. She got tickets from her neighbor in the condo that she's living in, and her neighbor was about a 28-year-old girl, not married or anything. So she got tickets, and she gave them to my grandmother, and then my grandmother gave them to me. It was like either Thanksgiving or Christmas game. I was down visiting my parents, so I took the tickets and went to the game, and I was sitting next to Nick Lowry's family, Christian Okoye's family, Neil Smith, Derek Thomas. I was sitting with all the families. So
Wow.
they all had fur coats on. We're all dressed up. I looked like a bum when I went in there, and I don't know who this girl was, but she had some connections somewhere to get those tickets. So ever since then, I was a Chiefs fan.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
And a fan of your grandma's neighbor.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But
Right. So will you be in Louisville this year or next week or?
oh yeah, I'll be down there milling around, causing
Okay.
trouble, or trying not
So
to
anybody
cause.
watching? Anybody watching have any questions for Chris before we shut her down here? Get him on there, and we'll.
All the
see what
tens of tens people that are on watching,
Right. Yeah. Well, we had a pretty good show last week with Mike Witt on and John Mears, and I think this will be just as good here. A lot of people like seeing the machining stuff, so I could talk about some upcoming shows. I don't know when they're going to be. I was going to try and get up to Roger Baum's making blocks too, and he's making crankshafts up there, and try to get up there see Roger and Wyatt or Waylon. I mean. I talked to him a little bit, and they're still working on stuff for Macville. He's in Florida right now fishing, Roger is. Talked to him this morning. So
that sounds like a good place to be.
it would be, yeah. Nicer than the wet weather here. But
Warmer, I hope.
yeah. Then we've got Dennis Fry's shop too with some of his new equipment he's got in there. We'll get down there and show that. And we want to get out and do some farm tours yet, 2 shop tours. You know, but the winter's flying by here, and we're just busier than heck all the time. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, Robbie's got a very nice shop. A lot of innovative stuff there. Dennis does. I mean, some of the guys that are in make tractor pulling parts, they definitely got some nice shops and pretty cool stuff they can do.
Yep. I've been trying to pin Robbie down for a lot, but it's hard to pin down. We'll do it. We'll do it. And then I go, yeah, we can't do it tonight. So
yeah, no, he's a busy guy, especially this time of the year.
Follow them 2 blocks to Robbie's and they showed tonight and do a little videos there and see how they finish it. You know, and just have him record it when he's there, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Right.
I got some other stuff too we can do in the future. Making injector tips and injector valves, how they EDM the holes into those. Well, actually, how they make the whole injector. One of my buddies over in China, he's the largest producer of injector tips valves for the aftermarket for like Bosch and everybody. So I can get some videos from him showing how they do that. But yeah, just how things are made are kind of cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. That'd be neat. That'll be neat. And you've got your hands in making a new tire, a mold for a tire now, a different one. If you want to say anything about it, I don't know.
No.
Nope. Okay, that's what I thought. But just say what's going on. But you do have your fingers.
There's something going on, but yeah.
There's always something going on.
Oh yeah, there's always something going on.
What with Sussex Machine? What do you do a lot of at the machine? I know the pulling stuff here is secondary. What do you do primary stuff there? And you have in China, also Mexico, right? And
yeah, so we have 8 plants. Mexico, 2 plants is primarily we do a bunch of stuff for like cat locomotives and getting into that down there. Company called Finia, like every starter housing for actual engine starters. We make a lot of them that go into on-highway trucks, industrial loaders, that kind of stuff. That's Mexico down there. We do a lot of stuff in Mexico for Mexico, tooling for some of the automotive plants. China, a lot of stuff over there is made for Gators, a lot of John Deere stuff. We get shipped back here. We do work in China for Cat and John Deere and electric cars in China. So the government is in charge of making electric cars over there. And it's that forging company that we deal with. They do a lot of work for the Chinese government. So we actually, our blocks got pushed aside for a week because they had a military job they were doing in there. So there's 2 plants in China, and then Waterloo, Wisconsin. That's primarily all John Deere stuff. A little bit of Meritor, a little bit of like forklift stuff. New Berlin, Wisconsin. That's all on highway trucks. So like every differential housing, probably I would say 90% of differential housings in United States and Mexico, well, United States for sure, Mexico, quite a few of them are made in the New Berlin plant. So that's Meritor, Dana are the 2 big ones there. That's all robotics over there. And then my aerospace division is in Minnesota, Bloomington, Minnesota, and Rockford, Illinois. So we do work for, Honeywell, Boeing, Triumph, Lockheed, and we make parts that are, you got to check with a microscope to measure them to parts you can hold in your hand. Those are a lot smaller parts, a lot of stainless steel, Inconel, titanium, those type materials. So they're anywhere from fuselage parts, to engine components. And we do a lot of work for the military too, make a lot of parts for the government out of those two plants. The biggest parts we make are like in Waterloo. We do like probably, I think some of the biggest parts we do may weigh like 1,000 pounds. Transmission housings and stuff like that.
Wow.
Okay.
So
That's
we're in a little bit of everything.
Pretty
Got
diverse.
Yeah, we got a joint venture in Brazil that's just starting up. Brazil is going to be the largest soybean and corn producer in the world in 2025. I don't know. I think they're the biggest soybean producer in 24, but I think they're going to surpass us in corn in 25. Does that sound right?
Yeah, when they clear 1 million acres a year, on the plains down there, that's pretty hard to compete with 12 feet of topsoil.
Yeah.
When you talk to the guys down there, that's a big deal. And that's why if you pay attention, they're building a crush plant in California that'll crush 300 million bushels of beans a year. I mean, they don't grow any beans in California, but I believe they're building it there for all the beans to come up from Brazil and the coast and shipped up, I think. So that's just paying attention to what's going on around the world.
Wow.
Makes a big difference. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yep. So there we go. Looks like we're at our end of our time here, right, John?
We are. We thank you, Chris, for coming on again.
Yeah.
God, we very greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. No questions. I must have done a very good job of educating.
Ryan holds
right.
all back sometimes.
Yep.
They could be
They're
highly technical.
speechless.
Yeah. They're highly technical ones that he doesn't want to get out, Kind of like
Right.
the one Greg,
What was that, John?
kind of like the one Greg slipped. Some of them just questions don't make it to the forefront.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for sponsoring Badger State as well, one of the sponsors, and also the you won the meal, the frying pan last year too.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That's
You like my speech too, didn't you?
Yep. That was good.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Yep.
Classic.
Yeah. No, because we sucked.
Yeah.
We screwed our
We'll
tractor.
do better next year.
What's that?
It'll be better next year.
Yeah, we screwed our tractor next year. This year it's already 25. We screwed our tractor up at Baraboo
this coming season. Yeah.
Yeah, and we sucked the whole rest of the year. So we had to win something, and we won the only prize that had nothing to do with tractor pulling.
Yeah.
Right.
At a tractor pulling banquet.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, I'd much rather had you win the one that the boys won. But
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we were nominated for it, right?
Yeah.
right.
That sucks
You're
too.
running.
Yeah,
In the
and
running,
Bill Smith wasn't happy if he's listening that I won that. And when I walked back to my seat, I should have let him at least touch it, the pan. But I forgot
Yep.
to.
Where's the pan hanging?
Actually, it's sitting over in the corner, displayed right in the corner over there on the wine rack.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you
Because
go.
Azale wanted to use it. I'm like, no, that we can't use that. It's too pretty.
Hard to compete with Feller when he makes a dinner with steaks.
Yep.
Well, it was prime rib.
Yeah.
Prime rib and shrimp,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yep, prime
Yeah,
rib and
pretty good.
shrimp.
Yeah.
Catered
Everybody
in.
else were throwing their hats and screaming, and now there'll be rules on that next year. Now,
Yep.
Yep. It'll be hard to top that. Darlington's was pretty good too. Bill's was really good too. That was a good meal too. That's a tough call.
Yeah, I didn't make it there because we suck. So our tractor wasn't there. So I didn't get
Right.
to try Bill's meal. I'm sure it was good.
It was really
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Yep. They were both good.
And,
Yep.
and,
And
and
there's
yeah,
a whole bunch of other ones that are good too.
oh yeah, most all of them are good. But I think
Yep.
Bill said it was cheating because he actually cooked the stuff, which has some merit to it, I guess. Because
I think he had a guy catered into. He had a buddy.
Oh,
cook
okay.
it. I don't think Bill cooked it. I don't know if it was catered, but a buddy cooked it. And then there's good food everywhere, So
Oh yeah. Yep. You're not going to go hungry when you're pulling with us. So that's just all, part of the family thing. We help each other out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Awesome. Well, thank
all
you
right.
much. In Sussex Machine, we'd like to thank Front Street Toys, Casper Egg, Slama Enterprises, Trip Downing, and also Wet and Camp Transport for sponsoring Down and Dirty with the Badger State Tractor Pullers. So next week, kind of hope to have some people lined up that are going to be going to Louisville as we all make our way down to the Louisville and down to see the dirt down there. So.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm always on my best behavior when I'm on these, so it's really hard to do that the entire time.
We're proud of you. You made it a whole hour.
Yep.
Yep. So, all right.
All right. See you guys out in Louisville.
Yep. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody watching. We'll see you next week.